All right, so we're diving into Friday the 13th, part 3 today.
Sounds good.
And looks like we've got a really detailed summary to go off of.
Yeah, it looks like it.
You ready to get into it?
Let's do it.
Awesome. All right, so,
This one,
yeah,
this one's a big one, right?
yeah,
Jason gets his look in this one.
exactly. This is where it all changes.
It all
The
changes.
mask, the whole thing.
The whole 9 yards.
Yeah. So picking up right where part 2 left off,
Mm-hmm.
Jason, gets that machete wound to the shoulder,
Right.
but he's not dead.
Not even close.
Clearly, he's not messing around.
Nope.
He comes across this general store, stumbles upon it,
Mm-hmm.
and the owners, Harold and Edna, they don't fare too well.
Not at all. And I think the way they're killed off is really important.
Right.
They're very brutal, and it's like right up close and personal.
Yeah.
Using things like a meat cleaver and a knitting needle. It's very different than what we've seen before.
Definitely sets the tone for the rest of the movie.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So then we meet our main group, right?
Yeah.
The victims, if you will.
Right. The unfortunate souls.
Yeah. So you've got Chris, our final girl,
Right.
and her boyfriend Rick and all their friends.
Mhm.
They're heading up to Higgin Haven
Higgins Haven.
for like a little weekend getaway.
Classic.
Classic horror movie setup, right?
Oh, yeah.
A bunch of teenagers going to a cabin in the woods. What could go wrong?
What could possibly go wrong?
But there's a little twist here, right?
Right.
Chris has a history with this place.
Right.
Like something traumatic happened there a couple years before.
Yeah. I mean, it's that classic horror trope, isn't it? Going back to the place where, something horrible happened.
Totally. Yeah. And the irony is that she's trying to like face her fears by going back there.
Oh, right.
Meanwhile, Jason's literally hiding in the barn the whole time.
Hiding in the bar. Yeah, just waiting.
Talk about an unwelcome guest.
Absolutely. Talk about a blast from the past.
Yeah. And she has no idea.
Nope.
Like they have no clue that he's there.
That's what makes it so scary. That unseen force, right? Lurking in the shadows.
Yeah. And speaking of lurking,
Oh, yeah.
we've got to talk about Abel.
Oh, Abel, right? The creepy old guy.
The town weirdo.
Yeah.
Yeah, he pops up and basically tells him to get out.
Yeah, he's like, get out of here while you still can.
Yeah, why do they never listen?
Well, I mean, it wouldn't be much of a movie if they did, right?
True, that's true.
I mean, you got to have those classic horror movie tropes where people just ignore the warnings.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's part of the fun.
Part of the fun. Okay.
Okay, so then we've got the biker gang,
Oh, yeah.
the Black Widows.
They roll up,
They show up looking for trouble.
ready to cause some problems.
Yeah.
And Shelly the prankster.
Oh, Shelley?
He accidentally messes with their bikes.
Not a good idea.
Not a good idea.
Not a good idea at all.
No, they're not happy about it.
Nope, they are not happy tampers.
And, even though they seem like side characters,
Right.
it just goes to show that no one is safe in a Friday the 13th movie.
Yeah. No one is safe from Jason.
Especially when you mess with their bikes.
Especially not then.
So,
Yeah.
there's a bunch of really great kills
Oh, yeah.
with the biker gang.
Especially the pitchfork one.
The pitchforks, yeah.
Yeah, brutal.
Brutal. And, this is something that's always kind of bugged me.
What's that?
They siphon gas from the van,
Yeah.
but they don't just take the whole van.
Right. I mean, you'd think with a van they could get away from Jason pretty easily.
Exactly.
But I guess that's plot convenience for you.
It's like convenience for you. Yeah. You got to keep the movie going.
Got to keep those victims trapped.
Exactly.
Back
All right. So back to Shelley.
to Shelley the prankster.
Yeah. This guy loves his pranks.
He does. He really does.
And one of them ends up having some pretty major consequences.
Oh, yeah.
He decides to put on a hockey mask to scare his friends.
Well, that seems harmless enough.
Yeah, you would think, right?
Right.
But this is where Jason gets his iconic look.
That's right. This is the moment.
He ditches the burlap sack from part 2, and he adopts the hockey mask after killing Shelley.
The rest is history.
The rest is history, and it's such a brilliant move.
Yeah.
You know,
I guess.
It transforms him into something so much more terrifying.
Yeah.
He goes from this, like, hulking, disfigured figure to this, like, blank, emotionless killing machine.
You can't even see his face anymore.
It's just the mask,
Yeah.
and it's just chilling.
It is. It's like he becomes a symbol.
Yeah.
He's not even human anymore.
Exactly.
It's just pure evil.
Yeah, and this happens right before his first on-screen kill with the mask.
Right. Poor Vera swimming in the lake minding her own business.
And she sees someone with a spear gun,
Thinks it's Shelley.
but nope, it's Jason.
And that's all she wrote.
And water doesn't offer much protection.
No, it does not.
That underwater kill is just so eerie.
So very effective.
Yeah. And speaking of eerie,
Okay.
once Jason gets into the cabin,
Oh, boy.
the body count really starts to climb.
Yeah.
We've got Andy getting split in half horizontally.
Yeah. That's a tough one to watch.
Talk about a visual that sticks with you.
Yeah, that one sticks with you for sure.
Chuck gets electrocuted. Chili gets a hot poker through the stomach.
It's brutal.
It's like a horror movie buffet.
It's creative, though. I have to give them that.
Yeah, the kills are definitely creative
Yeah.
and brutal.
Oh, yeah.
And what's interesting about the kills is that they play on, like, very specific fears.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, we've got fear of enclosed spaces, fear of the dark, fear of electricity.
Yeah, and Jason embodies all of those fears.
Yeah, he's lurking in the shadows,
He is.
and then he just strikes.
He's relentless.
And meanwhile, Chris and Rick,
yeah.
they're off in the woods,
Oh, no.
totally isolated from the group
Classic horror movie mistake.
when the attacks begin.
Never a good idea to split up.
No. And is anyone surprised that this does not end well?
Not really, no.
No. Rick's death is particularly brutal.
Oh, yeah. Jason just crushes his head. It's one
Yeah.
of the most brutal kills in the whole franchise.
Yeah, it's rough.
It is.
But then we get to the final showdown,
Okay.
Chris versus Jason.
Here we go.
And she doesn't just run and scream.
She fights back.
She fights back.
Yeah.
She uses her environment, anything she can get her hands on.
That's what I like to see.
Yeah, she even manages to stab him in the leg.
Okay.
Remember that detail?
I will.
It comes back later.
All right.
She actually manages to hang him in the barn.
Wow.
For a moment, you think, wow, she actually did it.
Yeah.
She defeated Jason.
But of course,
It's Jason.
this is Jason we're talking about.
Right. He's not going down that easily.
And when his mask gets knocked off
Oh.
during the struggle,
Mm-hmm.
Chris recognizes him.
Dun-dun-dun-dun.
This is such a clever twist
It is.
because it connects the events of the film to her past trauma.
Right.
It adds this whole other layer of psychological horror.
Absolutely.
It's not just about survival anymore.
Yeah, it's about confronting a personal demon.
Yeah, exactly. And then out of nowhere,
Oh, yeah,
they-
when the bikers shows up,
he's still alive.
he somehow survived Jason's attack
Wow. Talk about a survivor.
and wants revenge.
Oh.
Talk about bad timing.
Yeah, revenge is never the answer.
Especially when Jason's involved
Especially not then.
and his death is quick
It is smug.
and brutal.
Jason chops off his hand and then finishes him off.
Yikes.
Yeah, not pretty.
But Chris, she seizes the moment.
Okay.
She grabs an axe
Oh, right.
and swings it right into Jason's skull.
Oh, wow.
He falls seemingly dead.
So it's over.
Is it finally over?
Is Jason really gone?
Well, that's where the ending takes a really interesting and ambiguous turn.
Oh, here we go.
So Chris escapes in a canoe,
Okay.
and she falls asleep exhausted.
All right.
But then she has this vivid dream,
Mm-hmm.
or is it a hallucination?
Ooh.
We see Mrs. Voorhees.
Jason's mother.
Yeah, all decaying,
Oh, that's creepy.
suddenly grabbing her from the water.
Mm.
It's terrifying. And then we cut to Chris clearly traumatized being taken away in a police car.
So what does it all mean?
The film leaves us with more questions than answers.
Right. Is Chris mentally unraveling?
Did Jason actually die? Or is this
Yeah.
just the beginning of another nightmare?
Yeah, it's a real mind trip, that ending.
It is, and that's what makes Part 3 so much more than just a typical slasher film.
Yeah.
You know, it's that lingering sense of unease, the psychological impact on the characters that really elevates it.
It's not just about the blood and guts.
Exactly. It's about the fear that stays with you long after the credits roll.
Yeah, it gets under your skin.
It does.
All right, so we've talked about the kills, the 3D, the final girl, the atmosphere, but what's your overall verdict on Friday the 13th, Part 3? Does it hold up as a classic slasher flick?
I think it definitely does.
Yeah.
It's got all the elements you want in a Friday the 13th movie.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the kills, the suspense,
Hmm.
the iconic imagery.
Yeah.
And Dana Kimmel is fantastic as Chris.
Oh, absolutely.
She's a great final girl.
She's tough. She's resourceful.
Mm.
She's not just a damsel in distress.
Yeah, I agree. It's a fun, gory, and suspenseful ride
It is.
with a truly unsettling ending.
Definitely keeps you on the edge of your seat,
And it gave us Jason's iconic look.
which is a huge contribution to the franchise.
I mean, can you imagine Jason without the hockey mask?
I can't. It's just so iconic.
It's inseparable from the character at this point.
Absolutely.
All right, so time for the moment of truth. What's our rating for Friday the 13th, Part 3?
Let me think about it for a second.
Okay, I'm ready.
All right, I'm going with a 4 out of 5 stars.
Okay.
I think it's a really solid entry in the franchise.
Yeah, I agree with that.
It's well made, it's entertaining.
It's got everything you want in a Friday the 13th movie.
Exactly, and it's got that extra something special with the 3D and the introduction of the hockey mask.
The 3D is a fun gimmick.
It is, even if it's a little cheesy by today's standards.
Yeah, but it was groundbreaking back then.
It was, and it adds to the whole experience.
Yeah, you really feel like you're in the movie.
Absolutely.
All right, so 4 out of 5 stars for Friday the 13th, Part 3.
I think that's fair.
All right, so we've covered a lot of ground here.
We have.
But what about you guys? What did you think of Friday the 13th, Part 3?
Yeah, let us know in the comments.
We love hearing from you guys.
And if you have any suggestions for future deep dives,
Be sure to send them our way.
we're always on the lookout for new horror movies to dissect.
And as always, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to The Deep Dive wherever you get your podcasts.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into Friday the 13th, Part 3.
Until next time, stay spooky.
And keep watching those horror movies.
Yeah.
And we can't talk about Friday the 13th, Part 3 without talking about the 3D.
Oh, yeah.
This was the first one in the series to use 3D.
This was the big 3D one.
It was marketed as Friday the 13th in 3D.
Yeah, they really went all out with it.
They really did. They wanted to make you feel like you were right there in the action with Jason.
Yeah, all those like things popping out at the screen.
Exactly. And, you know, some of the effects might seem a little cheesy now,
Yeah.
but back then it was pretty groundbreaking stuff.
It was, and audiences loved it.
They did. It was a huge box office success.
I read that they even like developed this special camera rig with 2 lenses to mimic human vision.
Really?
Yeah, so it's supposed to make the 3D experience even more immersive.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and they used all sorts of tricks to enhance the effects.
Like what?
Well, remember that scene where Vera gets killed with the spear gun underwater?
Oh, yeah.
They used a spring-loaded spear gun to make the spear actually shoot out towards the audience.
Oh, wow. So it was like coming right at you.
Yeah, I bet people were jumping out of their seats.
Yeah, I can imagine.
So yeah, they really wanted to make the most of that 3D.
It definitely adds a whole other dimension to the movie. No pun intended.
Right, right. But speaking of adding something new to the movie,
Yeah.
we got to talk about Jason himself.
Oh, yeah.
This is Richard Brooker under the mask,
Right.
and he brings like a real physicality to the role.
He does. He's much bigger and more imposing than the previous Jason.
Yeah, he's like a tank.
And he moves with this real deliberate force.
Yeah, like he's unstoppable.
Exactly. And the addition of the hockey mask just makes him even scarier.
Oh yeah, it hides his face completely.
Yeah, you can't see any emotion.
It's just this blank slate.
And it makes him so much more intimidating.
Yeah, I think he's not even human anymore.
It's like he's become this symbol of pure evil.
Exactly, and the practical effects in this movie are top-notch.
Oh, yeah. Some of the kills are seriously messed up.
Yeah, they really went all out with the gore.
Tom Savini, who did the effects for the first film, wasn't involved in this one.
Right.
But the team that took over did an amazing job.
They used a combination of like prosthetics and fake blood and clever camera angles to create some really memorable and gruesome moments.
Yeah, and it all holds up surprisingly well, even by today's standards.
Yeah, there's something about practical effects that just feels more real.
It's that tactile quality, you know?
Yeah, it's like you can almost feel it.
Exactly. It adds a level of realism that CGI just can't replicate.
Absolutely. So we've talked about the kills, the 3 Jason's new look, but we got to give some props to Dana Kimmel for her performance as Chris Higgins.
Oh, yeah, she's fantastic.
She really is. She brings a real strength and vulnerability to the role.
She does. She's a great final girl.
Yeah, she's resourceful.
Yeah.
She's determined. She's not afraid to fight back.
And her past trauma isn't just some throwaway backstory.
Right.
It's actually integrated into the plot.
It makes her a much more complex character.
Exactly. And it explains her anxieties and her hesitation, but it also fuels her determination to survive.
Yeah, she's a really well-developed character.
She is for a slasher movie.
Yeah, so we've talked about the characters, the effects, the 3D, but what about the overall mood and atmosphere of the film?
Yeah. What do you think?
I think Part 3 definitely has a darker, more intense feel than the previous films.
Yeah, I agree.
The setting with the isolated cabin and the looming presence of the barn,
Yeah.
it just creates this sense of claustrophobia and dread.
Yeah, like you're trapped.
Exactly, and the cinematography really enhances that feeling.
Yeah. Lots of shadows and low-angle shots.
Yeah, and the music.
Oh, yeah, music is great.
It's so creepy and
It
suspenseful.
really adds to the overall tension.
So yeah, I think Part 3 does a great job of creating a really unsettling atmosphere.
I agree. It's one of the things that makes it such an effective horror film.
So we've covered a lot of ground here.
We have.
The kills, the 3D, the final girl, the atmosphere.
It's been a wild ride.
It has. But what's your overall verdict on Friday the 13th, Part 3? Does it hold up as a classic slasher flick?
Absolutely, it does. It's one of the stronger entries in the franchise, I think.
Yeah.
It's got a good mix of what worked in the previous films and then some new ideas, pushing things forward a bit.
Yeah. And it gave us Jason's iconic look, which is huge for the franchise.
Oh, yeah. Can you imagine Jason without the hockey mask now?
I can't. It's so ingrained in pop culture.
It's like Freddy's glove or Michael Myers' mask.
Exactly. It's just synonymous with the character now.
And it all started right here in Part 3.
All right, so time for the moment of truth. What's our rating for Friday the 13th, Part 3?
I'm going to go with a 4 out of 5 stars for this one.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
It's a really solid slasher film.
It's fun, it's gory, it's got great kills.
And the 3D is a fun bonus.
Even if it is a little cheesy.
Yeah. But it was a big deal back then.
It was groundbreaking.
It really added to the experience.
All right, so 4 out of 5 stars for Friday the 13th, Part 3.
Solid.
So what did you guys think of Friday the 13th, Part 3?
Yeah, let us know in the comments.
We want to hear your thoughts on Jason's new look.
That kills.
That crazy ending.
Everything.
And if you have any suggestions for future deep dives,
Yeah, we're always looking for new horror movies to talk about.
send them our way.
Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to The Deep Dive.
Wherever you get your podcasts.
Thanks for joining us.
Until next time, stay spooky.